All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to College Week. So glad all of you can join us for this workshop, Microaggressions, How It Impacts Student Learning, presented by Hong Nguyen from the San Ramon Valley Unified School District and Ms. Denise Williams, the CPO of Silicon Valley Education Foundation. Before getting started, we want to know who is in our audience. Please take a second to complete the poll that will pop up on your screen in just a moment. Also, feel free to use the chat for any comments or questions throughout the presentation. Of course, we ask that you please be mindful and respectful in the chat and keep the conversation relevant to the topic. Thank you all again for joining us. I would like to hand it over to Ms. Denise Williams to get us started.
All right. So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to College Week. And I hope if you've had any other time to jump on any other of the other events, you've done that. It's been an awesome week. And now we are going to first review the community agreements. Whenever we begin to talk about a courageous conversation, we always review these agreements so that however we get to collaborate on this particular format, to stay engaged, experience discomfort, it's okay. Sometimes when we have these courageous conversations, we do feel a little uncomfortable about some things, and that is normal. Speak your truth. There may be opportunities for you to respond in the chat. Expect and accept non-closure, because by the end of this, you still may have questions. You still may be a little puzzled or need more clarification, and that can happen. These agreements are adapted from Glenn Singleton and Curtis Linton. They're gurus in this area. They wrote the book Courageous Conversations About Race, a field guide for achieving equity in schools.
And so what we're going to be doing right now is an icebreaker on a Jamboard activity. And so the question that you're going to be answering, and I'll put this link in the chat box so that way you actually can click on it. The question that we're going to be answering is, how do you feel when someone directs an action or comment that subtly, unconsciously, or unintentionally expresses a prejudiced attitude towards you? And I know that we have seen on TV or in social media some of these expressions or prejudiced attitudes towards people. Sometimes we encounter some of those things on our own as well. And so we want to from you. I'm going to go ahead and take the actual link and I'm going to put it in the chat box. Go ahead and click on that. And it is a Jamboard activity, so you can use a Post-it note, you can text and type in it, and then just type your response to that question there. I'll give you guys a few minutes. Somebody else wrote that they feel hurt. Another person said that they are irritated, self-conscious, resentful, want to prove them wrong. Another person put that they're frustrated, agitated, defensive. And those are definitely great feelings to have when you're feeling that there are some prejudice towards others that you care about. And of course, we witness this quite a bit, especially things that are going on right now in our country. And so when we do see that, what do we do in order to stop that from happening, right? And that's something that we definitely will go more into. Somebody wrote that they feel unfair because the other person doesn't know them. So thank you to all of you for writing in your responses, and we'll keep that Jamboard going in case that we have any more responses. We'll definitely share that out. So again, thank you for doing that. We appreciate that you shared out there.
So those kind of answers that you put on the Jamboard were microaggressions. And on this particular slide that you're looking at now, these are just some images that are comments that you might have even heard in your daily life, or if you're in schools or wherever you may be. Some folks say them and they don't even realize it. You have a mental disability? You seem perfectly normal to me. That one at the top right, it's better when they have that. I barely can see. So I'm going to go down to the bottom ones. That's the third cab to pass me. I guess I'm taking the train. Hopefully I'll still have time for breakfast. Person of color there, just standing there. You speak really good English for an immigrant, the guy in the bottom. Hong, can you see the one in the top better? The words?
Not quite making it out, but we just know that whatever is being said, that person is lecturing, right? The other person
Yeah.
does not feel comfortable with what is being said there.
So definitely you can tell from facial expressions that people have been hurt, probably to their core. And we don't even know if folks that are saying, you see that instructor is just going on along with his comments and doesn't realize how offensive he may be to someone in the audience. So you'll see other opportunities in this presentation of how this occurs in our daily life.
Thank you. And then we actually have some people that could make it out, and it says it's better when women stay home and take care of kids. So, those definitely are comments that we hear, and not realizing that those are microaggression. Now teenagers lack good decision-making skills. Thank you, Kim, for letting us know that, as well as Lisa. Appreciate it. And I'm looking at the Jamboard again, and another person wrote that depending on the situation, sometimes I feel confused, frozen, broken, unloved. And so those are definitely feelings that we have, right? And what do we do about them?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a video that we wanted to show to you on microaggression.
Oh, you're so pretty for a black girl. Oh, she has a Jew nose. Oh, your hair would look so good if it was straight. Jews are so cheap. Why are you so cheap?
Do you speak good English?
How are you an Iraqi Jew?
I think the person saying microaggression kind of doesn't really think about it.
This person who said it was my friend, and I was astonished they would say something like that.
You don't want to make a big, but then it's also you just said something that offended me, so I feel like I should speak up.
Because they're micro, because they're very subtle, they're small, you feel like you don't have a reason to be upset. You're overreacting, and people even can make you that way when you bring it up. They're like, oh, you can't take a joke.
You're making too big of a deal of this. Why are you overreacting?
Don't take it seriously. It was just a joke. Chill out. Say oh no, I actually love black people. I love people of color. They try to just minimize the situation.
If someone feels hurt by a microaggression, it shouldn't just be pushed to the side.
It definitely has negative impacts and leads to people disliking who they actually are. Those kinds of subtle offensive comments can build up over time, and they can have a deep psychological effect, and they can make you feel bad, and they can make you doubt yourself.
We try to just use jokes to make things less awkward or ease social experiences, but it is important because you need to be aware of what you're saying and who you're speaking to.
Think of what you say and how it can affect the person you're saying it to.
And even some comments such as when people look at me, I had a comment earlier this year when I started my new position. Oh, you look so young, and even that, I'm like, well, I come with more experiences than you assume that I have, right? Or, oh, you're Asian, you're good at math, right? So some of those microaggressions sometimes can stay with people for a really long time.
Mm-hmm. So now I want you to think about your role and then have a little self-reflection of the video. So in the chat box, we're going to give you the opportunity to answer this question. What message resonated with you, and how does this apply to your role in education? And if for some reason you're not in education, how does it resonate with you in your area and where you are doing your work? And then we'll share out. We'll just take a couple minutes to respond.
One of our attendees wrote, "I was just kidding. Can't you take a joke?"
Mm.
So we do hear that a lot with our elementary school kids too, right? When they're saying something or kids are laughing and then feelings are hurt, that could be a response that's given.
And that's when we have to step in and disrupt that behavior because they really don't know. So they have to be taught. I have always known that I look a certain way, but that is not how I see myself. I have tried to lessen the outward things that mark me as a type. Thank you, Lisa.
Denise, what are some things that you've encountered in terms of microaggression?
Oh, one that I've heard even when I was in college was why is your hair so tight? You know, I guess they thought maybe they were giving me a compliment. I don't know, but that kind of comment, always around the hair. What? So I'm a dark complexion person. Why is your skin so dark? Heard that many times. I think one that I remember from like grade school that was kind of deep and apparently because it stayed with me this long was about just talking to another white student because I went to a school where there weren't a lot of white students and they would say stuff like, well, do you think you'll be able to go to college because you're in this particular school, because it was a school in the inner city? You know, I guess they didn't realize that they were in it too, but still, you know, just comments like that. Folks don't know. But then I didn't know that I could even say anything to them. So it put you in a really, you know, scary position as to, you know, why are people talking to me like that, you know? But you just live and learn.
That's right. And we have a couple more people that responded there.
Okay. So many things come into this, and yet we all use what we see on other people to interpret them. I was always a lot taller than the other kids. On the first day of 6th grade, a kid asked if I was the teacher.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that, Lisa. And Yi wrote, an offensive joke being used repetitively for someone can cause long-term negative impact on others, of course.
Mm-hmm. Greena, children sometimes are not capable of understanding that they are victims of microaggression, or their words or actions could hurt their fellow students. Children have to be taught about microaggressions. Absolutely. And adults too, for sure. And Johanna, as a student, I am still marked by random comments from my teachers, and I am terrified of doing that to my students. And when I've caught myself saying, doing them, I am mortified and at a loss how to correct the situation.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Very powerful comments there.
Yes. So what are microaggressions? Like, we've done our mind check and did a brain dump on what you thought they were. And some of you probably have heard it before. And then you've seen some examples. So this definition from Daryl Wing Sue, Dr. Daryl Wing Sue, microaggressions, everyday verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slights, snubs, or insults, whether intentional or unintentional, which communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative messages to target persons based solely upon their marginalized group membership.
Thank you. And we have Lisa that wrote about programs that promote kid books like Giraffe Can't Dance. They're a good type of thing. So definitely a lot of the read alouds really help to start up some of those conversations that are important in our schools.
Great.
This is another video on being 12. As you're watching this video, also think about how it resonates with you and how does this affect you in your role in education or whatever role you're currently in.
I'm from Haiti and Nigeria. Like three things, like I'm Dominican, Puerto Rican, and Black. I'm biracial. I have an African-American father and an Irish-American mom. My name's Lamine. I'm Muslim.
I'm Indian, British, Scottish, and American.
My parents are from Venezuela, and I was sharing like one of the foods that we eat, and then I got made fun of. They were like, "What is that? Ew! Oh, ew! What is that?" And like I cried because I felt like, oh, there's something wrong where I'm from. Like maybe like it's bad. Like I'm different.
I am an African-American adopted girl, only child, and I live with my two dads.
I remember when I was younger, I went with my family to a restaurant, and they made us pay in advance just in case we didn't pay afterwards, and that was kind of upsetting.
You start to notice that people are different, and you have comments. They might be racist or they might not be, but by the time you get older, you know that it is racist and you should stop.
I feel a little scared about if I, just walk down the street, cops might just think I'm doing something bad. And then if I'm trying to explain to them, they won't listen and then just start beating me up and doing terrible things to me.
I think there's this anxiety that kind of comes with being biracial, that kind of eats away at you, almost like you have to prove yourself that you're one or the other. For example, I hear the phrase, "You're not Black," all the time.
People sometimes think that I'm supposed to talk ghetto or whatever that is.
Oh, she's uneducated because she's African American.
Because I'm Hispanic or Latino, I can't have a lot of money.
Just this weekend, I went with my friend to Urban Outfitters, and we were shopping, and I really wanted to try on this dress. And then this lady that was just there, she was kind of watching me, and I'm just I'm not gonna steal it or anything.
I think white privilege is the idea that in your everyday life you're getting treated differently and sometimes with more respect, or people just trust you more, or they have certain expectations of you, like you might be smarter or you might be wealthier. Because you're white, it makes me feel guilty sometimes, even though it's not my fault. I feel guilty for a privilege that I don't deserve.
If I was ever the mayor or something that controls the policeman, I would want to go out and look in the neighborhoods where there are people that's very friendly so you can pick them instead of these guys that's just doing all this training. It's better to pick people that's more minded with the community than to just pick some new guy and get on the street. It's just not going to work out. We have these kids from they're Ecuadorian and they get made fun of because they look Mexican, and they get told on a daily basis, "Oh, you like tacos? Oh, you like churros? How come I saw your mom on the corner selling ices?" It's I feel bad for them personally because I'm wow, they're not, and even though they tell them I'm not Mexican, I'm Ecuadorian, they still get teased.
So in the chat box, thank you. We had one person that said that it was powerful. Thank you for that comment. In the chat box, go ahead and write a message. What message resonated with you, and how does this currently apply to where you are in education, your role? Or even something that struck you, maybe an example or something that occurred in the past that you were able to bring up because of watching this video. The things that it brought up for me in terms of just watching that video itself. When I was in elementary school, I went to a predominantly very Hispanic school, a lot of Mexicans in the particular area that I was at. I grew up in Salinas, California. And I just remember as a child walking home from school, across the street, one of the girls that went to the school that I didn't know saw me and started yelling out from across the street, "Ching Chong Chinese." Right. And I just remember in my mind, I'm like, I'm not Chinese. And I'm like, why is she calling me names? Right. And so it wasn't something that I knew what to do at that time or how to confront her, or I make peace with that with myself. And so some of those things, as we're getting a little bit older and now in education or had pursued it, I wonder what can we have done in school as teachers or as educators to help to really let these students understand that their comments or just their perceptions of people can really harm or hurt them, right? And it becomes one of those experiences that they just wish other people will not experience. So we had another person write, what strikes me as a teacher is how little opportunity we give students to share their experiences regarding microaggressions. Someone needs to talk to the girl about Ecuadorian versus Mexican thing. The Mexican kids should not be teased either. Totally agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Kim. She put Hong, yes. A student mentioned that it seems like you have to prove yourself. Students shouldn't feel this way. Exhausting for students. Agree.
Mm-hmm.
And students right now are going through so much already, definitely in this remote space and thinking about the future, whether we're going back in person or if they're going to continue their education in remote. And in terms of that social emotional piece, how do they really build on that in this world that we're currently living in? And so as we educate our kids and as we educate others around us around microaggression, right, really getting them to understand what we can do to help with the situation when we see it arise. And so there is a protocol that, as we think about this, the RIR protocol, recognize it, interrupt it, repair it, is one that can be used. So for step one, really just recognizing, identifying the feelings invoked by a person's appearance, words, or behavior. So really just for ourselves, recognizing that this is occurring, this is happening. Step two, to interrupt it, stop the usual cycle of reacting based on gut feelings and take a moment to challenge them. And I know for myself this week, it was something that I had to challenge a parent about, something that we disagreed on. And then step three, to repair, right? Defined action steps to continue addressing unconscious bias in a substantial way that promotes long-term change, right? Sometimes it is really hard to this mindset and it may take time, right? And we definitely want to make sure that we are still saying something, right? Because if we don't say something, then it's going to continue to occur. And someone wrote, the video reinforced me to be more mindful of words and acts to bring up microaggression in family discussions, empower knowledge in the younger generation, both how to refrain from it and how to react if victimized. Thank you for that. And you wrote, exhaustion is so true. Students have to worry about how they are being treated by others and focus on learning at the same time. This is exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for those comments.
Okay, as we're coming to a close to our end, And I know this is a conversation that could go for like 2 hours. So we just appreciate your participation in this really short conversation. Just to give you some readings that you may want to read as an adult or share with children. The first one for an adult is by Dr. Chris Emdin, for white folks who teach in the hood, and the rest of y'all too. It's around reality pedagogy and urban education. And Dr. Endem is at Teachers College in Columbia University, where he also serves as Director of Science Ed and the Center for Health Equity, and does many talks throughout the country. An amazing individual and quite intriguing and engaging to listen to. Great book to read. And then in the bottom where it says Student Voice, that's by Russell Quaglia. That's another book. I think that's good for middle school and high school students. And as we want to have students share their voice, share their stories, and be engaged in conversations, we want some resources to help us provide strategies so that we can make that happen. And then for elementary or maybe upper elementary also, a lot of students, even in middle school, like to hear a great read aloud. There's Racism and Intolerance, another book that's great for students. And as you start to have these conversations, and then Julius Lester's Let's Talk About Race, beautiful pictures and visuals. And just talking about how there's always more than one story, and that how we need to share these stories and make sure that we have these conversations early on for students so that they can disrupt and have their voice and use it when someone has a microaggression towards them, or either they can know if they are contributing to that negative structure. So with that, again, from myself, Denise Williams, and from Hung, we really appreciate your participation here. And I think Christina may be jumping back on to close us out, but thank you. And I hope that you all can get on a couple more college events before the day is over. Thank you.
And I do agree with Denise. I know that sometimes these conversations are hard to have. And if there are people that you are interested in or want to learn more about in terms of certain cultures, it is okay to ask. And I think people are more welcoming of that than being questioned without having that knowledge. So I do encourage that, having those courageous conversations. And I know that Chris